It's Wednesday after school. Ed is sitting behind me. That's Ed. Last week, someone commented that the boy was behind me the whole time and they didn't notice until the end. So I'll tell you in the beginning. There's Ed and he's doing stuff. So this is a little bit different of video because this comes right from a viewer. My internet friend, the Bruin teacher, asked me to make this video in response to like some of the things that she's hearing in her classroom or in school and that we all know exist in schools also. So we'll say on the front end that not all the language that I am going to use is that clean, and I usually try not to on this. Any of Brody's friends that are in the 4th grade that are currently watching this video, maybe skip to the next video. Watch that one because this one's gonna get a little weird for you. The idea here is, what do you do when students are using words that are demeaning to some folks or purposely demeaning in your classroom or in the hallway or around your school? How do you address those sorts of situations? So what I'm talking about is, at my school, everything's gay all the time. Things are gay, people are gay, stories are gay, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with something being homosexual, right? It just means they don't like it. But they substitute the word dislike or hate with the word gay. Kids are always called retarded or fag, homo or kata, I'm not really sure how that one goes. Weird or nerd, a meathead, dark skin, too light skin, Oreo. I mean, you get the idea, right? Think that there's a couple of different ways to deal with this, right? You could call home, you could call home and like make the kids say the thing that they said, and you could just write a kid up, you could send them to the office. These are all valid options. In my experience though, and this is just me, and I'm not trying to say that this is the best way to handle it. Maybe you have a class you can do this with, maybe you don't, but like everything else, teaching has a lot more to do with your personality than it does to do with like how to handle things in a black and white, right or wrong way. And I think the way that I typically handle this is if someone uses the word retard in my class, right? Which is usually just like someone that will explain to me that they didn't really mean anything. They weren't trying to say someone was like they were actually retarded or trying to put down someone that they thought was mentally retarded. It's a throwaway word. For me, I think always having the conversation with the students is a much better idea than just trying to like put your foot down or send them away or like get that problem out of here. I think kind of breaking it down and saying, let's talk about this real quick. Like, why do you think that word bothers me? Or why do you think that made me raise an eyebrow? Or why do you think that would get you in trouble? Why does that word get you in trouble? Hearing kids' opinions of like what they might really be saying without even knowing that they're saying it, or maybe they do know what they're saying it, but they need to be like an in-your-face reminder, is important. I think it's important to remember that young people are very rarely asked their opinion, right? And this isn't to say that like all parents do this, but most folks, you know, I know when I was a teenager, people would ask me 2 main questions. If they hadn't seen me in a while, or if they came over for dinner or to visit my parents, it was, hey, how's school going? And then I would give that answer, which was probably some throwaway answer also. And then, hey, are you playing baseball this year? Or hey, are you playing football this year? And then me answering that question. And then that was the end of the conversation. I was rarely asked anything deep or meaningful. To give students a space to be able to ask that question is really impactful. So asking them like, what are you trying to say when you call someone a retard? Or why do you think that bothers me? Or let's talk about things like calling someone a fag and what that means, talking about the N-word and what that means and where that originated from. Because when you can break it down for kids to what is actually happening there, right? So like what we're trying to do in these instances is actually strip someone's humanity away or make them less than you are. That's a problem. Because our classrooms need to be a safe space for everyone, right? No matter if you agree with what their viewpoints are or who they are, creating that safe space in your room is going to do a number of things. One, it's going to make kids just feel like they're safe, that they can be who they are no matter who else is around, or no matter what the rest of the school might feel like, or what the lunchroom might feel like, or outside of school might feel like, or online pressures might feel like, that your room is a safe space. It's also going to give you the ability, if you can make kids understand what the ground rules are in your room, that we're not allowed to use language like that, that we're not allowed to diss one another in that way in our classrooms, you can create a space where kids from different viewpoints can cohabitate in your room. So in my classroom, during lunch, this really interesting thing happens where I have a group of students that are homosexual that all sit together in my room. I have another group of football players that are usually like the alpha male type that all sit together in my room. There's a bunch of kids that sit in the back that watch anime the whole time. And then there's this other seemingly very odd group of children that watch 80s stand-up comedy every day, which is mind-boggling. And then they plagiarize those jokes as if they were their own. But I saw Eddie Murphy Raw, and you did not come up with that joke. What that's doing is allowing people that are completely different from one another to be in the same space, and I think that can also breed conversation. And if you can work that like a conductor, where you're having a conversation with one group and then you go, you know what, that reminds me of something that this person said. You're talking to Nasir, but you can call over Malik and they can start having a conversation about something like that. And what it's doing is it's putting folks that think differently in the same jurisdiction. And I think that can create a community of people that learn to get along or learn to see each other for actual human beings instead of just whatever the preconceived notion was. Now, I get that this can be a very weird conversation to have with students, and maybe you don't feel safe. Maybe it's your first year. Maybe you don't feel like the relationship piece is there. Maybe your classroom management is enough on point and people are going to be yelling over one another. To have this conversation, it's got to be cool. You have got to lay ground rules where someone is going to 100% listen to the other people, especially if they want to argue back. You can't argue against the point that you don't have any, that you didn't listen to the whole argument anyway. So teaching kids those listening skills on the front end really helps, because then they are prepared to have a counter argument against something. Do this at your own risk. I just think that it's a lot easier of a conversation to have than just kicking kids out, just sending kids out and expecting them to know the rules and expecting them to know to act. I think sometimes when we assume students know something, we're really, really missing an opportunity to have a really deep and meaningful conversation that's going to last. These conversations for me, they don't ever last the test of time. I still have kids coming in calling one another gay or retard or whatever else, but I can at least check them and say, yo, where are we right now? Or that doesn't happen in here. And kids will always give you that sort of respect, check themselves, and then it doesn't happen again, or they'll apologize. So here's my question for you. This is a very short video, but I'm wondering if you can leave in the comments below, how do you address some of these situations? Like I said, teaching's all about personality, and each classroom is going to be different based on the teacher that's in there. So maybe you handle things a little bit differently. Maybe you don't handle these things. Maybe you've always wanted to, but you're not really sure how. If you could leave that in the comment section below, what that's really going to do is help other folks that are watching this find someone that they can connect with, and then maybe you all can have a continuing conversation there or elsewhere. That's it, guys. Thanks. Peace.